My dear viewers, hello and welcome to a new episode of our program Culture Magazine, during which we're going to bring you the latest cultural events that are taking place in Egypt. Please stay tuned.
In line with the directions of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to continue achieving the axis of sustainable development in the fields of preserving the heritage identity, Dr. Ines Abdeldaim, Minister of Culture, announced the start of admissions of the second batch of Egypt Artisans Initiative organized by the Cultural Development Fund sector headed by Dr. Fathi Abdel Wahab. The minister said that the start of training of the second batch, which was launched on the 1st of July 2019, reflects the insistence of the Ministry of Culture to continue the success that was achieved in the first batch, to revive traditional and heritage crafts, and to preserve the characteristics of the Egyptian identity. She explained that Egypt Artisans Initiative is one of the effective guarantees for the continuity of traditional and heritage industries in their unique civilizational elements. She added that the ministry aims to create a motive environment to safeguard our heritage identity on the material and moral levels. Furthermore, the ministry aims at achieving one of the important axes of sustainable development, which is the ability to attract more traditional craftsmen and artisans, providing the economic resources for them to open new fields of work, to raise the national income, and to develop the cultural industries in our country. In the same context, she continued that receiving the second batch of the initiative coincides with the end of training activities for the first batch. It is noteworthy that the Minister of Culture attended the graduation ceremony of the first batch of the initiative last October, during which she dedicated certificates of participation to 43 artists and craftsmen of the trainees in the fields of ceramics, copper, shell, tents, wood, and jewelry arts. The students were trained according to the modern systems, plus the study was supervised by an array of professors of various colleges of art, specialists, and qualified craftsmen working at the Craft Center in El Fustat. Minister of Culture Dr. Ines Abdeldaim inaugurates the Egyptian Modern Art Museum after developing and updating its panoramic works. The inauguration was attended by Dr. Khaled Surur, head of the plastic arts sector, and many executive leaders, artists, and media men. The minister said that inaugurating the Egyptian Modern Art Museum comes to activate the directions of President el-Sisi regarding the need to upgrade the cultural museum system in line with achieving the components of the Sustainable Development Egypt's Vision 2030. The development process includes the preservation of heritage identity, which deepens the awareness of Egyptian citizens of their national capability. She added that art museums are one of the tools of preserving our country's artistic legacy. Abdidaim elaborated that the most important characteristic of the Museum of Egyptian Modern Art lies in presenting a panoramic image and advanced techniques of the creative work starting with the beginning of the 20th century. Thus, the museum regained its glory after being closed since 2010, and it was partially opened in 2014 and then closed again due to coronavirus. For his part, head of the plastic arts sector, Dr. Khaled Surur, said that the reopening of the museum after its modernization and development represents a remarkable event that carries an inspiring message of enlightenment, showing the Egyptian cultural artistic leadership in preserving its tremendous heritage, so that this museum is a mark in the record of Egyptian plastic art. It is worth noting that the museum is located inside the campus of the Egyptian Opera House, plus it is considered to be one of the most important and prominent museums in Egypt. The museum includes distinguished artistic works of different eras and schools. The idea of creating a museum that includes masterpieces of art goes back to 1927, after Mahmoud Khalil succeeded in persuading the Saraya, or the Royal Palace, to issue a royal decree to sponsor fine arts, as the committee recommended the establishment of the Museum of Modern Art in Cairo, which included the holdings of the Ministry of Education. The most important developments administered were the modernization of security and surveillance systems, the works of accurate electronic recording, electric systems, and the display system, which was supervised by a special committee headed by Dr. Hamdi Abdallah and a group of professors and artists to form a visual record of the history of leading Egyptian plastic art movement. The former Royal Abdin Palace in Cairo recently hosted a concert for Kulthum using hologram technology. She sang alongside the orchestra over the course of 3 days. The concert is one of a series of concerts presented with hologram technology for Kulthum in a number of Arab countries, including the UAE, Egypt, Kuwait, Jordan, Lebanon, and Iraq. The hologram technology includes the appearance of Kulthum on stage in a multi-dimensional manner that gives a natural picture of her using the hologram technology to give the viewer a visual and audible feeling of the presence of the singer on stage. Hologram technology, the historical palace hosted a number of famous concerts for singer Abdul Halim Hafiz, as well as Kulthum, who had many memories in the palace, as she first sang at a birthday celebration of King Farouk.
وشوف ايه انكتب فيها.
King Farouk has granted Kulthum a Merit of Excellence of the 3rd degree. Thus, she acquired privileges of princesses of the royal family and the wives of ministers. In 1945, Kulthum sang the song Zahre Rabia and Ghani Li Shwaya, or Sing a Bit for Me, in Abdin Palace on the occasion of the celebration of the establishment of the Arab League.
بدي احكي لك عاللي في قلبي واقول لك عاللي سهرني واقول لك عاللي بكاني واصور لك ضنا روحي وعزة نفسي منعاني وعزة نفسي منعاني.
The camera of our program is always going after the cultural events that are taking place in Egypt. Please stay tuned.
The educational section of the Museum of Islamic Art in Cairo organized a celebration on the occasion of the International Day of Islamic Art entitled Arts Bridge Time, by setting up an exhibition of traditional crafts that are an extension of Islamic art through the ages, with the participation of 20 exhibitors who take the initiative to display their artistic and heritage products inspired by Islamic art. Such as carving on copper, painting on ceramics, miniature art, woodwork, embroidery on textiles, tents, stained glass, and other works. The exhibitors then introduced the attendees to the traditional patterns of crafts that they inherited from grandparents and ancestors, and which they seek to pass on to their children.
I was always in love with the Islamic architecture, and then when we got to I became a mother, and I stayed from home. I started working in what I love most, the Islamic patterns and the things that I couldn't work as in the firms. So I began my project. I was also fell in love with the copper as a material. So I began working with it, all handmade. I began doing the designs. Since I was an architect student, I was always working on my designs with the Islamic architecture, and it was also always a big inspiration for me.
The exhibition includes many artistic workshops for engraving, inlaying, drawing units of Islamic art, and Arabic calligraphy. The exhibition activities are concluded by honoring the exhibitors from the museum management. On the sidelines of the exhibition, many scientific symposiums were held on Islamic art, in which a group of specialists lecture interested fans of Islamic art on the history of the origin of Egypt's capitals in the Islamic era.
The Cairo Opera House is playing a significant role in the cultural movement that is taking place in Egypt. Please stay tuned.
Fursan al-Sharq Heritage Company, which is founded by the Cairo Opera House, performed on the Gomhuriya Theatre the beautiful, influential Egyptian mythology, Isis and Osiris. This troupe is distinguished by its richness of stories and Arab heritage, which are later transformed into expressive dance performances that worth watching and attention.
We interesting for the historic and folkloric topics. All our work before we create this team or this company created by Cairo Opera House and Creation Center in 2009, and we start to all our performance, all the performance interesting for the folkloric and the historic topics. Today or tonight we have a performance called Isis. It is about the legend of Isis. All the dancers tonight will perform for contemporary dance and folkloric team, and all the dancers tonight have some rules, and we have work on the legends of Isis. So all the journey for Isis, all the performance, she searched for Osiris, her lovers, and this lover story starts after the marriage between her and Set. And I would like to enjoy with our performance tonight. Fursan al-Sharq Company traveled more and joined more festivals in Cairo, out and abroad Egypt, like Experimental Theater Festival, National Theater Festival, and Fujairah Festival. And we went to China, Mexico. So this is international team, not only national company. And we follow all the time Cairo Opera House for all the programs. But we interesting special for the historic topics. We have art director called Dr. Assam Izzat, and our director for the performance tonight, Karim Abdir. Karima Abdir, one of the best choreographers in Egypt, and she have her skills and her experience for contemporary dance and folkloric and modern dance also. She joined our company from first step with together, parallel to Mr. Walid Aouni, the first art director for our company, and then Tariq Hassan, and then Karima Abdir, and then Mr. or Dr. Hassam Izzat. Tonight we will see how it was great effort in our rehearsals in Cairo Opera House when we start to choose, or Karima Abdir start to choose, because she interested a little bit for the feminist problems or the feminist yes. So all the time she work on these topics. But I think tonight we have a general vision from her as a director to put the spot on Isis as a woman. But what about Egypt from the eye of Isis? How she follow all the time her love, but she wanted to show us Egypt from the upper Egypt, Nuba, and from the farmer people, how they work on Delta. So you will see part of Egypt and part of the traditions, part for the different costume, different colors. The rehearsals in Cairo Opera House, in our studio, not only for the performance, it's also practice. We have classes, we have ballet classes, modern capoeira, jazz, modern jazz. So many classes we have to get these great preparations for our performance. We have programs from 2009 until now, 2020. So I think this company from 12 years old until now, we have line. This line we interesting, as I told you before, for the historics. So maybe all the time we choose local stories and deeping stories from Egypt to show our people in Egypt how it's a very beauty about our folklore and our traditions. To back to our locality, we need to back to our locality. We need to search about the other, the writers, Egyptian writers. We need to have Egyptian creators, not only follow the foreigner writers and foreigner stories.
وانشق الصمت حين ولدت الرغبة. أرض وسماء جمع مقدس يبشر بميلاد أكوان ترنو للبقاء.
Our performance is this. So we are a company. We present the folklore on the contemporary way. So we choose the stories from the old, from Egypt, from like Bahia, like Nasa, like Ryan Skina, like Isis, and we put all these stories on the contemporary way. So we will see today the real story made in traditional way. So like Isis, she present the love, the peace, the carefully, the everything. So she travel around all the countries. We will see the Upper Egypt and the Nuba and the farmers. She meet all these places, and she take from each part apart from Osiris' his body. You know the story. So we will do a performance in frame for a contemporary, but it is a traditional story. That's our concept for Sanishar. The way that I work with, so I put a music, a very contemporary music, and a very contemporary decor. Going to the abstract a little bit, and then I try to choose a movement looks like our folklore and our traditional movement, but on the same time, it's a contemporary. So because my specialist, I'm a contemporary dancer and I do that since 15 years. Actually, all my stories I choose here to doing with this company in Cairo Opera House. I choose I'm a feminist, so I always choose the stories for ladies, for I didn't. What I mean, no. I mean the problems that we have around all the world. It's not a specific problems. Just with the world, with the men, with the countries, with all the problems around. Like for example, Raya Uskina, Isis. It's a very famous lady, so I take this and I put it in the performance.
The Isis and Osiris myth is one of the most influential love stories in the ancient Egyptian mythology, and reviving it on stage is another magical story. Shuruq Bikir, Culture Magazine.
Well, with this, my dear viewers, we come to the end of this episode of our program, Culture Magazine. I hope you've enjoyed being with me. Please wait for me in the next episode. Until then, it's goodbye.